welcome to the PolyNext Conference 2025 interview series. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Robert Sawchuck, co-founder and CEO of 245 Recycle. With over 30 years of experience in petrochemicals, refining, and advanced recycling, Robert has been at the forefront of circular economy solutions for plastics. Let's dive into his insights on the future of plastic recycling, innovation in pyrolysis technology, and what's next for 245 Recycle. Hello, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing well, Marisa. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for coming here. So firstly, going on to your personal journey and industry expertise, Robert, you have an extensive background in petrochemicals, refining and advanced recycling. What inspired you to co-found 245 Recycle?
Well, thank you for asking. I was first introduced to advanced recycling back in 2020 as a petrochemical expert on a due diligence team. And it struck me that this technology really worked. And there were some major hurdles around supply chain logistics, quality, and economics, all of which could be solved. After meeting with and working with other professionals wanting to get into the waste management with advanced recycling streams, I realized there had to be a better way of doing this with a very targeted approach to advanced recycling. That happened in October 2022, and by February 2023, 245 Recycle was born with the mission to recycle all plastics that cannot be repurposed.
Okay, great. Nice to hear that. So you have worked across Canada and the US and Germany in leadership roles, right? How was your global experience shaped your approach to sustainability and recycling?
Well, all three countries approach recycling very differently. It's been a long time since I lived in Canada, but I did come across some data from Made in Canada that in 2022, 16% of plastics were recycled in that country. This is significantly higher than the global plastics recycling rate of 9% as reported by the OECD, and which is the latest, although rather dated figure for plastics recycling in the US as reported by the EPA. When I lived in Germany, we had to separate our trash into 3 or 4 different bins, and we had to take all of our glass bottles to a separate receptacle at the end of our street and separate all the different colors. This demonstrated to me that recycling can be done, but it starts with a culture and a commitment to sort your recyclables at the source.
Okay. So regarding the vision of 245 Recycle, what gap in the recycling industry is 245 Recycle addressing, and how does your company differentiate itself from others in the same space?
Good question. When I first started working in this space, I was asked the question, where does advanced recycling fit? Is it a forward integration from waste management or a backward integration from the chemical industry? So over time, it became clear to me that there's a space in the middle that neither industry is really perfectly suited to serve. Mm-hmm. So at 245 Recycle, we come from this issue from the perspective of the chemical industry, whereas most of our competitors look at this from the waste management perspective. This different approach manifests itself in our culture of value engineering, process efficiency, asset optimization, and most importantly, safety. So it's not that our competitors don't look at these things the same way we do. It's just as the founders and the leadership team of 245 Recycle, we have been living and breathing these core principles for over 100 years of our collective experience. It's in our DNA.
Okay, nice to hear that as well. So just wanted to ask, so could you explain how your business model works and how you collaborate with MRFs, plastic producers, and fuel manufacturers?
Yeah, this has been a real challenge. So we've evaluated several sources of waste plastics, including municipal solid waste, MRFs, PERFs, and everybody else that we can think of. So in March 2023, 245 Recycle announced it became a member of Cyclix Consortium and its 10 to 90 program. At least in the United States, it's going to take a concerted effort around curbside collection and sortation of waste plastics to create a sustainable supply chain for advanced recycling. Our work so far has indicated that it's much more efficient and economical to intercept the waste plastics before they enter the MSW stream. On the offtake side, our focus has been on producing pyrolysis products that can be used directly to make new plastics, which is truly circular versus going into the fuel pool. As I mentioned, 245 Recycle was created on the premise that we will recycle all plastics, which means our end markets must be part of the circular economy for us to achieve that mission.
Okay. So let's get some insights on pyrolysis. Like pyrolysis is gaining momentum as a solution for plastic waste. What makes 245 Recycle's patented pyrolysis technique unique?
Well, in February 2024, we announced that we are evaluating a 400 ton per day advanced recycling facility to be located on the U.S. Gulf Coast using Lummis's Green Circle technology. So we believe that partnering with a leader in technology licensing gives us an access to technology and expertise that we need to build a business for the future. As most people in the industry know, refineries and petrochemical complexes around the world all use very similar technologies, but they differentiate on how they execute, whether that's on site location, raw material supply, or efficiency. At 245 Recycle, we are focused on producing petrochemical feedstock quality pyrolysis products in the most efficient, cost-effective, and safe manner as possible. That's how we are unique.
So how scalable is this technology, and what challenges do you face in implementing it on a larger scale?
Mm-hmm. Well, personally, I'm not that worried about scaling technology. I and my team are more concerned about sourcing supply for future capacity expansions and new investments. So as I mentioned earlier, less than 10% of US plastics end up being recycled, which means 90% go to incineration or landfill. Today, most of the US, it's relatively cheap to landfill our trash, and it seems like we have an endless reserve of landfill capacity. So until the time comes where we can advance curbside collection programs of post-consumer plastics to intercept those plastics at its source, supply is going to be the limiting factor to scalability.
I can understand that. So like my next question would be, like, many petrochemical companies are under pressure to meet circular economic goals. How does 245 Recycle support their transition to sustainable solutions?
Yeah, this is a core part of our business. But I think the bigger part of the issue is why major chemical companies or consumer products companies are drawing back their commitments to recycling. Let me use Coca-Cola as an example. They had a goal to increase its recycled packaging content to 50% by 2030, but they had to recalibrate that goal down to 35 to 40%. But why? Because recycling infrastructure needed to achieve their goals has not been funded. For these initiatives to work in the industry, companies like 245 need financial support. The demand's there, and the only reason Coca-Cola and others like them are drawing back their commitment is the lack of adequate investment into capacity to recycle polymers, which is why a company like 245 Recycle is important. So in a broad sense, investing in recycling increases the ability for downstream players like Coca-Cola and others to meet their circularity goals because we provide them supply, but it takes investment.
Yeah, that was a wonderful answer and very insightful on that. But what will you do with these global regulation tightening around plastic waste? How do you see advanced recycling evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, good question as well. We are somewhat agnostic when it comes to regulation. We are more focused on the industry, our partners, and ultimately people like you and me who care about the environment. Clearly, the major brands are interested in a solution outside of regulation. Also, the plastic producers and the petrochemical companies are all looking for a solution. So regulation may hamper or impede or maybe support the outcome, but the outcome is set by the market. And my view is the market wants to see more recycling. They may not understand the difference between mechanical and advanced recycling, but they will celebrate an increased overall recycling rate. So as far as technology, we need more installations like 245 Recycle to be funded to support the demand growth over the next 5 to 10 years. And there will be demand growth.
So you have been in the industry and doing a wonderful work for the plastic recycling. But as you know, when we are in a particular industry, there might be some biggest misconceptions that comes with the state, right? So what are the biggest misconceptions about advanced recycling that you think need to be addressed?
Well, I think the biggest misconception is that pyrolysis is really burning plastics to create energy, and that's not the case. And that would cause an even further environmental impact. The reality and the facts are that we can create something new from something that once was by advanced recycling, instead of the alternative of landfilling and hoping that something better happens with that plastic in the future. When I look at the big picture, I think, number one, plastics are good because they provide safety and security for food and medicine and even our automobiles. And number two, there's a tremendous opportunity in the marketplace right now to jump in and really create how the advanced recycling market is going to look over the long term. And third, we ultimately need to address the problem of plastics recycling. And advanced recycling provides a solution that goes beyond the limitations of traditional mechanical recycling, which is basically limited to PET and to some extent high-density polyethylene.
Okay. So as a thought leader in the industry, what advice would you give to businesses looking to invest in sustainable plastic solutions?
Very good question. It may be a new industry, but it is an old problem. And I go back to what I said at the very beginning. When I first got into this industry, there were three hurdles: logistics, quality, and economics. Solve all these and you have a business model.
So Robert, it's been a pleasure speaking with you and learning about 245 Recycle's incredible work in advanced recycling. Thank you for sharing your insights. We look forward to seeing how 245 Recycle continues to shape the future of plastic circularity.
Thank you, Arisha.
Thank you.